Hello everyone and welcome to another video. My name is Caitlin. Today I'm going to be drawing an elephant. This is part of my alphabet series. If you want to see my previous D is for dog, you can click right up here and it'll take you to that process video. If you want to see everything else in the series, head over to my Instagram where you can see the entire series as it comes out. Now this one is actually my least favorite out of all of the illustrations in the series, but I got it done and I put it out. And that was actually the lesson that I learned from this one. As this series progresses, I'm learning from each piece. And in this case, it was the process itself of learning that things don't necessarily need to be perfect, they just need to be finished and maybe revisited later and maybe just used as a lesson. So the biggest thing that I learned on this piece was actually not to do with the illustration technique, but more to do with the illustration process. And that's that chasing perfection actually is going to stop you from making progress more often than not. I sketched this one out a lot, I kept changing it, I tried a bunch of different background patterns and a bunch of different variations of the blue and orange colors, and ultimately I could have spent a lot more time playing with this and probably would have gotten something that I was a lot happier with, but it would have cost me a lot more time. So I just went with the least objectionable outcome and made it happen, got it out there, and now I can learn from that and apply those lessons to future projects. Ultimately, I just wanted to get this done. I wanted to finish it and I wanted to have something complete, which is why I did this in the midst of tons and tons of other freelance projects that were going on at the time, and I wanted to have that satisfaction of being able to check something off my to-do list, which is something that the other projects weren't offering me at the time. You have to build skills over time and with a bunch of different pieces. It's a lot better sometimes to have a bunch of different projects that you can see your progress through instead of a bunch of unfinished projects, or even worse, one unfinished project that is almost there for 3 straight years. You have to finish things, you have to put them out there, especially in the professional world where you can't just keep asking for more time. You just have to figure out the best way to get it complete by the deadline and live with that. And sometimes that's really frustrating, especially if you know that if you just had one more day, it would be so much better, but sometimes that's just not possible. With this one, of course, I am doing this for my own stuff. I don't have an actual deadline with these, but if I keep pushing them off and pushing them off, I'm never gonna get to the next animal. I'm never gonna get this series done because I'm always gonna be caught up on the early ones saying, this could be better. And I would rather have a nice finished series that you can see my progress through instead of another thing on my to-do list that's never gonna get crossed off. But that's why I critique every single piece, both the good and the bad, because I think that you can learn from everything. Whether it's learning that you really like doing this pattern in the background, or it's learning that maybe you're not so good at drawing hands, you're still learning from what you're doing and you're still making progress from every finished piece. So that way in your future pieces you can use all those lessons that you learned to build a much better foundation for the current project and make that one as good as you can manage. And I'm saying that instead of as good as it can be, because that's chasing perfection, and sometimes that means avoiding getting it done. So for me, it is much more helpful to just be able to finish pieces and put them out there and try and learn from them instead of constantly delaying things and procrastinating, because I am very guilty of that. I currently have my thesis project going, and that is definitely suffering from this perfection-seeking problem. So I've changed it a little bit and I'm just getting it done. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't take your time on these pieces and you shouldn't try on them. You should. You should put your best effort forth. But if it's stopping you from finishing the project, stop seeking perfection. Just get it done to the best of your ability and finish it and move on. So for this one, despite the fact that I am spending the entire video complaining about it, I am proud that it's finished. That being said, here's the things that I think I could have and should have done better, or would do better if I was going to reapproach this piece. I think that this one is a little bit too flat and too simple, especially compared to the other pieces, which, yes, were very simplistic and minimalist in the shapes that I chose, but the shapes were more thoughtfully placed and configured, so it gave a little bit more interest to the composition. Here we just see a plain side view of an elephant. This was one of those pieces that nothing was working for me, but I really wish that he would have had a little bit more of a pose and a little bit more attitude, so that way he had a little bit more character. That brings me into the next problem of when I was trying to create that patterned background, there was nothing interesting to put in there. There were no items that really seemed fun to pair along with this elephant. Anything that I was putting in there that was fun was kind of pulling attention away from him because they were too fun compared to him. So the pattern did not work with him because he was too simple. So instead I ended up putting little stripes in the background, very similar to the way that I did it in my very first one of this series, which is A's for Alligator. This is also a project that I did amidst a lot of other freelance projects, and so this one got significantly less time devoted to it, or the same amount of time but split up into chunks, and that is not something that I had to do with the rest of them. I got to just sit down and do them all the way through. So I actually forgot a couple elements. So for example, in my other ones, I have embellished the actual letter itself as well as the animal name. This one doesn't have that, and I didn't notice that until after I had already posted it on Instagram. So I'm going to have to go back in and add those in later so that way it fits in with the rest, because it does definitely look a lot more plain than the rest of them. So I did learn from this piece, and I am happy that it came out. Not necessarily with how it came out, but I am glad that it's done and that I can move forward and keep learning those lessons on future pieces, and then maybe come back and revisit this once everything is all finished. That just about does it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give me a big thumbs up. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. If you can, please consider heading over to my Patreon page and make a donation. Anything would help me out. I would really appreciate it, and I hope to see you all again soon. Until next time, I hope you all have a very lovely day.